Kia ora and welcome back to Get Into Games. I am your host Kahu and this is my co-host.
Zeno, you're not even saying my name. You're just
Uh, like, who are you again?
yeah. She actually did forget, folks. Who's been co-hosting this show with her for the last 2 days? But that was a great intro, Co. What are we doing with session three? For day three of Get
So
Into Games.
there's so many components to games, right?
Mm.
We've spoken about character design, we've spoken about storytelling with Maru, but one thing that seems to get overlooked quite a lot is actually music. So there's a
Mm.
lot of music in video games, and today we are lucky enough to be joined by our producer, who is going to mix things up a little bit and join us from the club, a virtual club.
A virtual.
So this
Virtual
is
Club. Hey.
so this here is our producer. He's the man behind the curtain who's been doing all the work behind the scenes. But he's going to talk to us about music and how technology has really changed the game yet again.
Oh my gosh, that's a little freaky, isn't it?
It is a little bit. You can see me over
Yeah,
here. Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
wait. Okay. Doing the camera thing as well. So this is us
Oh
inside
no.
VR. This is the metaverse.
We are inside the metaverse. So, of course, we know you, Marcus, but Blaze, can you please run us through who you are?
So, kia ora everybody, my name is Marcus, aka DJ Blaze. Yes, I have been the person sitting behind the scenes doing all the back end production work for Get Into Games this year. It's been a lot of fun. But I am also actually a DJ. So, I have been DJing for close to 20 plus years, within inside the clubs and festivals here in New Zealand and also a little bit overseas as well. So, I've been around a little bit with music, but my background with music goes even further back than that. My dad used to manage a radio station, and I used to spend a lot of time hanging out down at the radio station, learning all the different things that used to go on there. And this is before digital, by the way. So this
Yeah.
is back in the days of vinyl, tape, and stuff like that too. So it was pretty interesting times all the way back then.
I have to say, from Pridelands in the chat, what in the metaverse? Yes, what in the metaverse? As we see DJ Blaze here on screen in virtual reality. Now, you did just say you have a long history within music and the DJing space itself. What are some of your most memorable events that you've been taken part
Ooh, it's been pretty cool. Like I must be honest here. Like I've done some amazing events in the past.
in?
I can think back to like the Dawn Raid tours. Going across New
Wow.
Zealand all the way back in early 2000s.
Yeah.
So we used to do the after parties for that down in Otago, and we also got them to come back down from like Timaru and Oamaru, I think, when they were on the tours too. So there was the New Zealand side of things. And then when I moved to South Korea, I got a chance to actually play at some, really big festivals. I did Rebel
Mm.
Freestyle. I partied on the beach. I went to Ultra. So there's been some pretty cool places. I've got to, DJ in front of, lots of people, thousands of people out there in
Yeah.
front of you while you're up there going, you know, raising the roof. It seems a little corny, but hey, it's actually been a lot of fun. I can't lie.
So with that in mind, how has technology changed during your time in that space?
I mean, just look right here. I have a full DJ setup right in front of me here.
What?
So this is a club ready, like a club standard setup. So this
Yeah.
is Pioneer CDJs. So I got the Nexus 2 mixer, CDJ 3000s, and this is what you would expect at a top end club. And I can go through,
Oh my god.
play music. So there's a little bit there. Hopefully, it doesn't come through copyrighted too much, but
Yeah.
it still works. I can still scratch on this. I can set cue points. I can do all the kind of the stuff that you
Yeah.
do normally as a DJ, except I can now do it in virtual reality.
That is actually insane. The fact that it's like the high end mixer from Pioneer, like
So
that
yeah,
is insane.
a setup like this would in New Zealand dollars would probably sting you for around probably just under 10K.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
DJ is not cheap, y'all.
it's free, so to speak, in the metaverse.
It is free in the metaverse. Yes. Well,
Oh my
actually, not
goodness.
quite free. This is
Yeah.
a paid program. However,
Right.
kind of it sort of like rolls things back about virtual reality. People sort of see it as like, oh, it's like a novelty. It's a bit of a game thing. It's like, well, this is actual DJ equipment that can be used exactly the same way as a DJ would. And I do DJ sets
Yeah.
here as well into different VR clubs.
Into VR clubs.
Yes, VR clubs are a thing.
That's cool.
This is insane. This is such an interesting merging between, us showcasing music in games, but also music within the virtual reality space. Yeah, I'm quite blown away by that. So you can also adjust each of the different levels. So you can do treble,
Yep.
bass.
So it's just like a standard. Just jumped in here a
Yeah,
little bit closer. So you've got your, bass. Wait, which channel
yeah.
am I on? That channel. So bass, mids, highs, and then gain as well. So everything's
What?
very much. You've also got a full range of effects as well, either color effects at the
Yeah.
top or master effects and stuff down the bottom as well. So again, you've got full control over how you want your sound to sound.
That no,
That
that's
is
yeah.
incredible, guys. There's literally nothing in front of him in real life. Like, it's a
He's
blank desk.
yeah.
That's
Like,
incredible.
I'm absolutely blown away by that. So with that, what you're kind of almost pointing out is if you do have this access to this virtual space, um, students could get into music with it. Correct?
very much so, and not just music either. Like there's other things you can do inside the VR space. We had ākonga on here the other day, and he actually does a lot of his 3D modeling inside VR.
Right.
And of course, we've got a full DJ setup here as well. There's also programs out there where you can have like a full instrument rack in front of you, and you
Yeah.
can make your beats and stuff like that as well. So it's taking away. It's taking things, sort of that we can do on our PCs, and then taking it into this virtual environment,
Yeah.
which sort of, allows you to kind of look around like this is, the club scene here, the
That's
things I can sort of look
cool.
around, being able to come into a space. And this can also be a social space as well. So if I wanted to open up this room, other
Yeah.
people who use this program can jump inside, and then we can also collaborate as well.
I just
Sorry, someone has asked how are you moving your hands, so I'm just going to show them one more time
So
what
this is,
you look
yeah.
like.
Yeah, this is my controller. So this is me just moving my hands around. It's
And you've got buttons on it, don't you, to control your fingers and
yep.
lift
So you can
things
sort
up.
of see my.
wow.
Very
And again,
cool.
this is not. So this is very simple tracking. So it's
Yeah.
what we call inside-out tracking. You've got two controllers and a headset. But if for people who maybe want to jump into say a place like VR chat, you can have full body tracking there. So I can have sensors, to my shoulders, my waist, and my feet, and can fully move around, dance, and stuff like that too. So, this kind of notion that again, we're just sort of jumping back to the metaverse, that it's coming is like, well, actually, it's kind of already here. Very
Yeah.
much, very much so. Like there's people inside virtual reality right now, again, going to clubs, dancing, DJing, making music, making graphics, making artwork. So it's already here.
Yeah. I've seen in the chat that they're talking about full body tracking now. The one that I most recognize for using that sort of technology, because they went out of the way to spend their money on it, and it has paid off in the long run for them investment wise, is Code Miko.
Yeah.
Code Miko uses full body tracking, and that is just a whole other thing to watch and experience. Do you think people in the virtual reality space need full body tracking, or is it just to
So
create a different sensation?
I mean, Code Miko is an interesting one too because she's kind of like the pinnacle. Like
Yeah.
she's very much at the top. Like she does all her own coding. She's got an Xsense like full body tracking, motions capture suit. Like she is literally like the top of the game. Like the stuff she does is absolutely amazing and blows everybody away.
Yeah.
But then if you want to sort of roll back and look at like the VTubers, and they're
Yeah.
just using, if you look at like I'm just trying to make sure I don't mention too many of the lewd ones out there.
I feel like a lot of the
like the
VTubers
V-
know that, if you ask me.
But if you look at like the V Shoujo girls and the stuff that they do, and that's just using 2D avatars
Yeah.
with basic camera tracking from like a Logitech camera or something like that. So it's not that difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, people still love that content, and it's again, it's sort of you don't necessarily need the best and the best to make good content as long as the content itself is good and enjoyable.
Yeah. Now, we are seeing that people want you to DJ.
Oh, they've been begging for you to DJ.
Do we have like royalty-free music for you to?
I believe this stuff is royalty free. This is a couple of the tracks that come with the
Okay.
the software itself. So you probably should be able to hear that. So coming through. But again, DJing itself is not overly that difficult. It's you're taking one track, and then matching up the other track and then blending them together. Like it's not like rocket science really, but being able to do that well is a skill. And being able to do that well, within a live environment, it's not necessarily easy.
Are you able to put the camera so we can see all the buttons that you're pressing as you DJ for us?
Just kind of trying to get a bit of an angle there. Because we do have, again, cool programs. So you've sort of got like a top-down one here.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
And again, it doesn't... okay, I'm just going to have to stand up.
Just to standing up, folks.
Standing up, folks.
I'm showing them that he's standing up.
I think it depends on how good the music is. We might be standing up soon.
Yeah, true.
Oh, again, this is non-copyrighted music, but also I'm trying to be able to hear things as well, just to figure out when the beat's coming in, or I can see it. So you better see what I've got up on the screen now. I am got the song on the left is playing, and the song on the right I've just queued up and matched in time to the other beat. And then it's very much just a thing of like two different volumes. One volume goes up, one volume goes down, and then you go to the other track. So that's pretty much the basis of DJing. And then I've got lots of different effects I can play with. Let's go check out the master, check out the echo.
We call them lumberjacks. Biggie said we had the hat, lumberjacks. Biggie said to match. We call them lumberjacks.
And also everybody's favorite features as well.
We call them Biggie said, Biggie said.
It is so cool. Chat thinks it's awesome, by the way. They're all buzzing out. I'm buzzing out.
So yes, this is what I did for a living before I jumped behind the screen and did all my production stuff. But again, music music's so universal as well, especially inside video games. Yeah. I'm pretty sure everybody out there can think of a very iconic music sequence from video games, whether it's the old 8-bit sounds from like Mario and stuff like that, or to one of my personal favorites, Halo, when that orchestra, that kicks in, stuff like that. Yeah. Already knows it.
Everybody knows the Halo.
Everybody knows it.
Yeah.
But how iconic is that? And music inside video games is an extremely important, facet that, as you said before, does get overlooked a little bit. But we have in the country, we love music. Music's a thing that we like to make, and when it comes down to it, it's just knowing how to, properly make that music and how to, structure it in a way that it can be used inside either video games or within your own songs.
So we've got Wine and Dev here, Blaze, asking, are there any rock band versions of this?
Instrument. Yeah. Yes, there is. Yeah. There is a guitar VR program, which apparently is actually not too bad. But it does get a little bit difficult, even the same with this as well, because you don't have the tactile feel.
Yeah.
And that's where, so when it comes to for Scratch, because I'm also a Scratch DJ, I can't really sort of get a good feel of exactly where the record is, and same with where the crossfader is as well. And that comes a little bit the same as well with the guitar out there, because there is a virtual reality guitar, which is, again, amazing, really cool. But not having that tactile feel of the strings or where you put your fingers, you can sort of see it a little bit inside the virtual reality space, but it's not quite the same yet. And so we're still waiting for haptic feedback gloves to become cheap enough and mainstream enough for everybody to use.
True. So for those watching who may not know what haptics are just little units that will basically feed back the feel of something. If you guys are lucky enough to own the PlayStation 5, the PlayStation 5 uses haptic feedbacks and it triggers. So if you've played, what's the game that was most interesting for me? I think it was... Oh, actually, the free game included with the PlayStation 5, Astro's Playground, that showcases haptics really, really well. It lets you feel the wind, the dirt. It feeds back so many different sensations into your hands, so it kind of feels like what you're walking through or experiencing in the environment is the thing you can feel through your hands, and it's amazing. And that's something that Blaze is saying, if he could get that feedback when he touches the crossfader or touches the platter on the CDJ unit, having that kind of feedback would help him maybe produce a beat that he's happier with within that space. Now, I like that you touch on the video game soundtracks and whatnot. I don't know about you out there, I can tell you, but I've ended up collecting a lot of different vinyl. I've got the Scott Pilgrim soundtrack by Anna Minaguchi, but I've also got like Death Stranding, God of War. And those are because those are titles that kind of had an impact on me in such a way that, you know, I kind of wanted to keep experiencing the game itself outside of the game. And I always find audio tracks help with that a lot. With that in mind, Blaze, you know, outside of the Halo theme song, what other soundtracks do you think have been like, you know, kind of crucial to driving home how important music is to games themselves?
I mean, a lot of the times you don't really, recognize that the music is having such a major part in the game. You know, so if you look at sort of, like, especially the adventure games as well, like you kind of go back to maybe something like The Witcher or even like Elden Ring or, you know, like Oblivion or something like that, and you sort of go back and you don't really sort of recognize like the sounds until you hear it.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, wait, I remember that sound. That sound came from that game. It's like, yeah, I remember that. And then it even goes back to, like, you know, games like Donkey Kong or, you know, again, as I said, like Mario. You recognize those sounds almost straight away, or like the Street Fighter intro or something like that.
Yeah.
You don't.
Miles' theme.
I mean, I notice a sound because if I'm playing a game and then suddenly like intense music starts playing, I know there's a boss coming, right? I know there's someone coming.
So yeah, the minute that sound comes on, it's like, yep, boss fight incoming. You know, like, you know, everything picks up. But again, it's that sound design is, you know, purposely made to invoke those feelings.
Well, it's so interesting that you guys talk about, you know, the sound making an impact to a game and when it comes through. The one that I most recently thought of, and you did mention it, Blaze, was Elden Ring. Elden Ring is pretty quiet a lot of the time, and it has very specific audio cues when you're about to fight a really strong enemy. And it's quite funny because the game can do a funny thing where it actually activates the sound like you're 100 meters away from the boss, but it will start doing the boss theme, kind of making you freak out because you know that a boss is around the corner, and I find that quite funny. I just want to point out from people in the chat, what VR hardware are you using at the moment?
So we are using the now defunct Oculus, which has been changed to Meta Quest 2.
Right.
So this is a fully standalone unit. So it's actually pretty cool too, because if you look at the setup how I'm using it at the moment, this is fully wireless, yet I am streaming this back to our production PC, which is outside the window there.
Yeah.
And I can also control my production PC from within inside this headset.
Yeah. And then also, what VR app is this?
So this is called Tribe XR. So Tribe XR is the name of this app. I'm one of the resident DJs who is a part of their community. And again, like when it comes to virtual reality space, community is important. And especially within the music space as well. You know, a lot of the people who use this app are actually based overseas. I DJ with people who are based over in Europe or in the States. And those are kind of the club time zones that we sort of work to as well. So it's a little bit sad like that because not too many people in New Zealand use this yet. But there are people out there who, you know, starting to see it and it's like, oh, this is actually really cool. And, you know, getting their own.
And we do see Bob Slayer in the chat saying soundtracks from Command & Conquer, Terraria, and Terraria Otherworld, Rebel Inc. and
Command & Conquer, you're speaking my language right here. Command & Conquer, this is my jam. Good soundtrack.
Of course, our own Digital Natives account has said, sound is critical in League of Legends. I know when other champs have popped their summons and which ones just from the sound. I love it. Wolfie, congrats on escaping the gulag. Great work on that. we love freedom. But Sam Jane Rain is really interested, I guess, in scary music. And I suppose each of us can talk to that in a different way. But we'll start with you, Blaze. Scary music, you know, how crucial is that to the horror game?
I mean, it's such a crucial part, especially within the horror game, you know, environment as well, because it sets that scene and helps raise that tension. You know, you look at games. Whenever I think of the horror genre, I always sort of go back to the original Resident Evil games, especially, you know, going around that first one in the mansion and just, you know, the wind rushing through. The music every now and then will sort of pop up as, you know, as the boss is about to appear around the corner or that zombie's about to smash through a wall. But, you know, music is such a major, music's a major important part of our lives anyway. You know, we're all brought up on music and it just helps elevate things even more within inside a video game.
It's like an international language. And that actually kind of branches into like sound in general. Like so much work goes into making sound effects, and I remember watching a documentary once where the sound they make when you do something good, like collect a coin or something, like it's usually like a nice little ding or something. Like they purposely do it because it's meant to be pleasant for you and it's meant to kind of reward you. So sound is just so important. Do you think you could play us play some tunes?
See, I'm just wary here because we will be uploading this up onto YouTube later on,
Right.
and we know how much YouTube loves having other people's sound on there. It's it's a little tricky, but we've got. And most of this is house music that's been included with there too. Because so if you do want to learn to DJ out there, house music is a great place to start because it tends to keep a very steady beat and it's got nice long what we call sort of phrases, and which makes it very easy to trying to match them up so that you get a decent sounding mix. Pop music or hip hop music tends to be a lot shorter, and you've got to worry about lyrics as well, so it tends to be a little bit more difficult to mix. Which is why house is like a nice sort of start because it's more melodic and sort of beat based.
Bob Blaze also saying, "Yo, imagine that VR horror game with haptics." Interesting you say that. The PSVR 2 is being touted as the first headset going to market with haptic feedback, which I find quite fascinating. Imagine a thing on your head, just constantly rattling, but it would be able to create cool sensations such as something grabbing you.
There is there's a lot of really interesting stuff coming out at the moment with inside the VR space, especially when it comes to haptic feedback. Whether it's the gloves or whether it's there is vests already out there that will, if you get hit in VR, will give you a bit of a punch. And there's also the treadmill, which is also come down a lot in price as well. So you can actually do like the whole treadmill walking around thing too. So this stuff is becoming more consumer friendly. The Quest headset itself, you can usually pick up for about 600 New Zealand dollars. So that's cheaper than a console. It's cheaper than a phone. And with like full body tracking as well, you can, if you're lucky enough, you can find sort of like a good full body tracking setup. Again, for probably under $1,000 with some of the new Kickstarter campaigns that are coming out there too. So again, not cheap, but the price is definitely coming down compared to like what Code Miko's using, like with her Xsense full body suit up, which you're looking at about $40,000 for that thing.
I think so, yeah. Apparently they can't hear me in the chat, so that's a concern. We'll worry about that afterwards. Unfortunately, Sam, requesting Green Hill Zone constantly may not give enough time for Blaze to set that up, and also it may be DCMA'd, especially because it's Sega. Sega, I believe, go on the hunt for that type of stuff a lot of the time, so he will play the music that he believes is safe for the stream, especially
hopefully it's safe. Yeah, I mean,
and especially through video on demand on our YouTube channel later. Now we are getting towards the end of the stream. If anybody else has any questions out there in regards to that, that'll be good. Sega is owned by Nintendo, and Nintendo hates fun. That's actually not correct. They're owned by a company named Sammy, who are quite big in Japan. Unfortunately, they are known for a particular service that takes money from people. But that's okay. Sega's still around because of Sammy, so we can't be too mad at them. Well, we can. But with regards to that, Blaze, if you want to share with Aorangatagi anything in regards to that music space within video games, what do you think they should be on the lookout for?
So if you want to get into making music, just remember that there is a plethora of free programs out there to make music with. You just have to put in a quick, simple search online, and you'll be able to find different programs that you can use. And we should have some of those links up for the different programs you can use on our website. But when it comes to making beats is fine, having a bit of a tutu around, but then if you want to take it seriously, then you should really look into the way that music is actually structured, and looking into things like beats and bars, and even just like basic notes. So my biggest piece of advice for anybody out there who wants to get into music: learn the piano.
Wow.
Yep, straight up learn the piano. Learn the piano, and again, you don't need to take it into realms of learning like memorizing like Beethoven and Bach and all the rest of the kind of stuff like that. Although that stuff is really really cool and will helpful, but if you learn the basics of piano, and that will teach you how to read sheet music, and it'll also teach you the basic of chords and how music progression sort of goes along. Once you understand that, and just like those very very basics, you can make anything, especially in the pop industry.
Now, of course, Bob Slayer, we do see your question in the chat, but of course we are having conversations while that is happening. Tribe XR there, Mr. Blaze, how is it spelled?
So tribe, just like a normal tribe, TRIBEXR.
Is there a space in between?
No, there's not.
Okay, so there you go. Tribe XR, and maybe add the keyword VR to it, just so that you look for the one within the VR space itself. As for yourself, Blaze, where can kids find out more about you and how you work alongside digital natives?
So pretty much everything for me you can find online is AKA DJ Blaze, and that's across all social media and even my own website. I managed to do that pretty nicely when I was DJing back in the day. So yeah, I do know a little bit about the social media game, even though if I struggle to keep up with it myself. We try.
Yeah. I was going to say, I was like, I don't know how he's going to wrap us up for this session in the day. But before we do that, I was going to say, if you take off your headset right now, will it do that floppy head thing? Where like the head on your avatar just like goes everywhere if you take your headset off?
Kind of. This one's a little bit not as bad as some of the other ones out there, especially like the full body tracking, and you take everything off, and it just like crumples down and looks.
It's quite funny. It's quite funny. So for our teachers and parents still watching out there, at 4 p.m, if you join us back here, you will join a session on esports for coaches and teachers around how you can assist our rangatahi with getting into that space. I believe that 4 p.m. session will be joined by Henry Lawton from Victory Up, one of the organizations that assists with a lot of the esports in New Zealand at the moment. As for ourselves, we have been DJ Blaze. DJ Blaze, thank you so much for joining us for this session.
There we go. I just cut myself out of that one there as we jump into the thing. But yes,
very nice.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for showing. Like, there's so many possibilities with VR, though, right?
There are.
That's insane.
Yeah. I was gobsmacked for at least the first 5 to 10 minutes of that whole stream.
At least?
Yeah, because it was just very very funny to see him working within that space.
Next time we'll work in some Beat Saber.
Wolfie is saying, what if you start music playing with guitar? Just quickly, if you are still in here, Blaze, why is the structure of a piano a little bit better to pick up than the guitar?
So again, the guitar's also not bad. So don't get me wrong there, but it's just that with piano, normally when you do a piano course, you're also taught sheet music along the side. Whereas normally if you do the guitar, you just sort of you're taught basic chords, but you don't tend to get like the extra when it comes to sheet music. And understanding like sheet music helps, especially when it comes to collaboration with other people.
Right. Well, there you go. So that's why you could be picking up the piano over the guitar. Ask yourself, Kahu. Thank you for everything today.
No, thank you. This was a very fun session. Thank you so much, Blaze, for joining us. Make sure you guys tune in tomorrow where we will be talking about educational pathways.
And that will be super interesting. I'm looking forward to that. I have still been that guy's NJ, and you have been?
Kahu Bennett taps all this time.
Oh, there we go. That's who she is today. And we have been getting to games in New Zealand 2022. Thank you for joining us for day 3 of this week-long stream. Until tomorrow.
Don't forget the challenges. Don't forget we've got the challenges. We're going to talk some more about them tomorrow. We've got some other challenges, but
because we do have a way to tie into. Don't forget the challenges, but also ka kite.